are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cowboys. Locked On Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Mosier. That's Landon McCool. You can find us on Twitter. You guys know where to find us. It's right there on your screen if you're watching us live on YouTube. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Landon, we got a lot of things to get into with the Cowboys, but how are you doing today, sir?
Doing well. Excited to do questions as always. It's always fun to do questions when the team's doing well. It's when we're in an 8-game losing streak that questions are not fun. But other than that, I love hearing from our folks. They always have great questions. Let's get to it.
My favorite part of doing these questions is I get to surprise you with every single one of these because we don't prep these at all, which is actually better for the show because we get your just initial reactions. So, first one, Landon. Should the Cowboys bring back Jaylon Smith after he was released by the Packers?
Wow, just firing fastballs.
The answer is no.
I mean,
the
answer is no. I mean, what's the role? The problem they had, even with the money, beyond the money, is that they didn't have a role for him. You know, so he's not going to play special teams.
That's exactly it, right? When
Yeah.
you lose Jabril Cox, it's not because you're not losing an impact defender on defense right now. You're losing a key special teamer.
Yeah.
Jalen's not going to help you in that area at all, right? And you don't want him on the field on defense anyway. So why are you bringing him back?
We're bringing, Francis Bernard's the answer here. I think, like we've seen
Luke
some
Gifford.
positive, or Luke Gifford. Yeah, we've seen positive things from both of those guys, and I think both of them are going to have mostly a special teams role, which is what they're probably good at anyways. Yep. I would personally like to see Gifford and Bernard, get some opportunities here, which I think they will.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how Bernard does on special teams because he's not a great athlete, but
yeah,
it's something to keep an eye on. All right, let's keep moving on to things that actually matter. Let's talk about the offensive line. Jaylon Smith dealing with a bone spur. We heard Mike McCarthy in his press conference today say it's going to be tough for him to go this week. He's not going to practice on Wednesday. Number one, who do you think should start at left tackle? And number two, if Tyron is back, let's say next week, do you continue to start Terrence Steele at right tackle, or what do you do here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a big jumbled thing right now. I kind of feel like they have to just deal with it week to week, because obviously this week you're going to look at Inseki, you're going to look at Lale Collins. If you don't think Tyron Smith can go, and really maybe what you do is, especially without Von Miller playing in this game, maybe you consider sitting him no matter what. It's just giving Ty another week off. Look, this is a game against Denver. This game more than any of them. I mean, honestly, like when we were doing these debates last week of whether we should sit Dak or not, this was the game that you really had hoped had been last week because it's a non-conference game against an opponent that you feel like you can beat. So I think this is actually a great game to sit someone like Tyron Smith and see if he wants, just to get another week to kind of heal that up, or maybe even think about looking at the long-term solution there. If he needs surgery, this is kind of the run of games that it feels like you really should consider. Maybe if you had to sit him long term, you've got some depth at the position. Maybe this is the time to start considering, do we want to do this to try to get Tyron back in time for the late run of the playoffs?
Denver is beat up on defense. So we're going to talk about this later in the week when we get to our preview, but obviously Von Miller's gone. Bradley Chubb is injured. Their edge rushers right now are Jonathan Cooper, a 7th round pick from Ohio State from this year's draft. Mm-hmm. And then it's Malik Reed, an undrafted free agent from 2 years ago, who's an okay pass rusher, awful run defender. And then that linebacker, it's Kenny Young, who they traded for a week ago, and Baron Browning, who just got on the field for the first time last week. That's their front seven right there, Landon. It's not great.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, it certainly isn't what we're used to with the Denver, kind of fearsome Denver pass rush in these groups. So, this is why you check the names specifically. You don't just assume the team. This is normally during the year you would face Von Miller and
Bradley Chubb.
And it's like a fearsome pass rush, but now obviously they're down to their third and fourth guys. It's kind of like the Cowboys last year. It's like the Cowboys offensive line is doesn't last year didn't hold up to the name that you usually face the Cowboys offensive line. I think this is a good game for, like you said, if you had to throw out your. I mean, look, it's not like you've got the scrubs out there. I mean, you're potentially talking about starting La'el Collins as your left tackle. So I think this is the Cowboys will be smart here. They've been smart, despite us hitting them about it. I think that they'll be smart and make sure that they start the right guy at left tackle, whether that's Nsekhe or Collins. And I don't know that that's necessarily like a slam dunk either way. I think La'el Collins, I would assume, should be able to slide into left tackle a lot easier than he slid into right tackle because of the familiarity of playing on the left side, being left-handed.
And they have all week to get him ready for that, right?
That's right. So, but let's not just assume that he can do it, at the level Ty Nsekhe can with 1 week of practice. I think he can, but I don't think we should automatically assume that that's the case. So
I do think.
Let's see what.
I think La'el will help you in the run game, and that's really where you're going to have to win this game, right? Because I think La'el at left tackle is going to be fine as a run blocker. The Broncos actually have some dudes up front, in the middle between like Shelby Harris and Draymond Jones, but their linebackers have been awful this year. So I think you can really run on them. We saw that a couple of weeks ago when they played the Browns on Thursday Night Football. They just gashed them with Dearness Johnson. I think the Cowboys can have a lot of success there. All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and we'll talk about some NFL trade deadline stuff, Landon. We are back and better than ever at BetOnline with a new web interface for the start of the basketball season and more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. BetOnline is the fastest and the easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, we've got a lot of questions to get to, but just a couple trade deadline notes. No, the Cowboys didn't trade for anybody. They did not trade anybody away. But it's not like they weren't working the phones a little bit. We did hear from Peter Schrager at the NFL Network that the Cowboys called about Von Miller. George Patton, the GM for the Broncos, even confirmed that Dallas is one of the teams that called. Is that surprising to you?
No, I think they had to kick the tires on that situation for sure. It would have been disappointing if they didn't at least see what the price was. I personally think that for the Cowboys, the price is a little bit high. I think Von Miller's a great player, but you're renting him for half a season and you're giving up 2 top 100 picks for it, if I'm not mistaken, right? It was the second and third.
Can I also say the Cowboys are not in the same situation the Rams are?
Yeah,
I know absolutely. A lot of people think that this is the last year of the Cowboys window and they need to make a run right now. I don't really see it like that at all. And I know people are worried about their cap situation coming up, but they're not really going to lose a lot in free agency. I think they're going to retain Randy Gregory. Yeah, they might lose Dalton Schultz and they might lose Connor Williams. And they maybe. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was on one of the Locked On Now programs, and we had Isaiah Stanback on, and that was one of the questions was, is this a one and done year for the Cowboys? And he seemed to think it was. I kind of disagree. I think that there's obviously some decisions they need to make, but the core of this team is signed. And this kind of goes back to why trading for Von Miller doesn't make sense, because if you want to continue to foster this environment where you have these young cheap players that you can fit under your cap with some of the top end players that you've got to hit on these draft picks, and you can't just be giving them away for half season rentals for guys. Von Miller's a good player, but honestly. Yeah. You get DeMarcus Lawrence back, you get Randy Gregory back, and Randy Gregory's playing the way he is. Yeah. It's like, it's not that there's a limit of pass rushers, but I feel like, are you getting this, the juice, but is the juice worth the squeeze there? The Melvin Ingram made more sense to me because
I agree. That's the one I wish they would have
the
made.
Cost,
yes.
Right? Yeah, yes. Exactly. The difference is that you're getting, only half a season of Von Miller and you're giving up 2 premium picks next year. That's what the Rams do, and that's their structure. They like to have a kind of top heavy type of team, especially on defense. But the Cowboys found another way to have success that doesn't necessarily require you having just 2 or 3 elite players. They're trying to build a depth of players, and that you do that by having good drafts.
Well, all right. So I also think a couple different things. Just really quickly, one of the reasons why this is not a one and done year for the Cowboys is the last time I checked, Dak Prescott was 28 years old and is on a 4-year deal with the Cowboys.
Yeah.
You're going to be competitive with Dak. The other reason why this deal doesn't necessarily make sense for Dallas compared to the Rams is the Rams have just been an awful drafting team on day 2.
Yeah.
Let me just read you some of the guys they've drafted in the second and third rounds over the last couple of years. Tutu Atwell, Ernest Jones, Cam Akers, Van Jefferson, Terrell Lewis, Darrell Henderson, David Long, Bobby Evans, Joseph Noteboom, Brian Allen, and Gerald Everett. That's bad. Like, they're just not
a great
good.
list. Not a great list.
We're going to get to a Cowboys thing in a second about some of their second and third round picks, and you'll see why the Cowboys, I think, are a little bit more hesitant to give up those premium assets. But I agree with you. I think that Melvin Ingram is the move the Cowboys should have made. They didn't. They felt comfortable with the guys they had. I get it. One other quick thing from the trade deadline. The Cowboys actually had a team call them about one of their tight ends. I don't know if this is out there or not, but I'll just go ahead and say this.
One of their tight ends.
One of the tight ends that's really it could be a good weapon in the passing game, not so much as a blocker. A team with an unvaccinated quarterback wanted to trade for this guy, and the Cowboys said no. So there you go.
Okay, I thought you were joking at first because I also heard that they were people called by Connor McGovern, and I thought you were just calling.
No. Well, that's it. No, I'm saying an actual tight end.
Yeah,
Green Bay was looking for a tight end after Robert Tonyan tore his ACL. They wanted to get Blake Jarwin for a day 3 pick. Dallas said, no, thanks. We're good. We don't want to give you a player that will help you. So
yeah,
there you go. That was the extent of the trade deadline for Dallas.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
All right. Sorry, I've lost where this question was at, but somebody wanted us to regrade the 2018 draft after 7 games this season. And that sounded like a good idea because I think when you think of the 2018 draft, you think of Leighton Van Resch and where he's at right now. And it's I don't know, do you want to call him an average linebacker?
Yeah, I mean, I think, kind of where he is now, he's probably average, maybe a little bit above that, but not much.
Now, it's a little frustrating considering some of the guys that went after him, DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, whatever. Okay. Let's just say that
you hated Calvin Ridley. Don't pretend like you
I like DJ Moore though. That's the thing. I like
that's
DJ
fair.
Moore. Right?
That's fair. You were a DJ Moore fan.
All right. Which is fine. So let's even just give him a C- for that pick. This is where it gets really interesting. The rest of this draft, and the more that we get further away from this draft, the better it actually looks. So Connor Williams was your second round pick. He started 47 games in the NFL for the Cowboys. Your third round pick is Michael Gallup. We don't need to touch on Michael Gallup too much. We know what he can do. Your fourth round picks, Dorrance Armstrong, who I think was their second best defensive end on Sunday night. I thought he came back and looked good, Landon. I thought he was. He actually looks like the player that we were hoping for him to be.
I think we're going to this conversation almost should be shelved for later in the season because I do think this is where Dorrance Armstrong really starts to make a move, right?
Yes,
yeah.
I agree. Let's keep going. Dalton Schultz, 4th round pick, last pick of the 4th round. Not a bad fourth round pick, right?
Pretty good 4th round pick, absolutely.
5th round pick was Mike White, the best quarterback in Jets history. Right?
Yeah, I mean.
6th round pick is Chris Covington. Next 6th round pick, Cedric Wilson. To get a guy that can come in and play multiple roles and can help you out on special teams, to get that guy in the 6th round, not too bad, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a great example, right? Like, as one of the things that was mentioned yesterday as to why, the Cowboys can't potentially keep this up is because they're going to lose a guy like Cedric Wilson. They got Cedric Wilson in the 6th round. It's like it's and this list really shows you exactly the kind of value that the Cowboys are able to get, later in the rounds with their team and how they're drafting. I mean, geez, Dalton Schultz in the bottom of the 4th round. Mike White, I mean, say what you will, man. It wasn't just one game, but I mean, he looked fantastic.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I think that game at least bought him 2 more years as a backup in the NFL.
probably,
Right?
yeah,
So
exactly.
you've
yeah.
identified a backup quarterback in the NFL in the 5th round. Fantastic. And then Schultz is going to get paid. You're going to get a comp pick back from him. You got 4 good years of service. At the very least, Cedric Wilson might get paid. Williams has been I think a good guard for the last couple of years. So outside of the 1st round pick not being an absolute hit, pretty good little draft from the Cowboys. Also, Donovan Alumba, Travarius Ward, your undrafted free agents.
That's
you
right.
found 2 cornerbacks in the NFL. So, listen, kudos to Cowboys. I did not like that draft at the time. I thought they did pretty well.
You look. I think you can say a lot of things about about their ability to draft, some of the picks that they've made. The Cowboys are without a doubt one of the top 5 teams in identifying talent. I just think that as far as identifying what they want and identifying talented players, the Cowboys are very, very good at it.
All right, let's take one more break so we can tell you guys about Get Upside. Our listeners are making up to 25 cents for every single gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and use promo code TOUCHDOWN and get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cents cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside, promo code TOUCHDOWN. Also want to tell you guys about Built Bar. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar out there. It's hard to even explain it. Real chocolate, amazing flavors. It's just a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste fantastic. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your next box at BuiltBar.com. All right, Landon, a couple questions about Bradley and I. The Cowboys released him on Tuesday. Shout out to our guy, John Oning, who is in mourning right now. How much do you think the offside penalty had to do with his release?
Again, I cannot express enough sadness for our guy, John Oning, who just was an eye guy, for sure guy.
Yep.
I think they want him back. It sounds like they're trying to get him back on the practice squad. I think it actually had more to do with roster moves than the offsides, to be honest. I actually don't think that this is the last we've seen of Anai in a Cowboys uniform, to be honest.
I wouldn't be surprised if he gets claimed, though.
I wouldn't either.
Pedigree, playing some snaps this year, I wouldn't be surprised if he's got. And if he is, it's fine.
He's a one-trick pony to a large degree, but that one trick is extremely valuable and extremely wanted in the NFL. And so I wouldn't at all be surprised if he got claimed. But I also don't think that necessarily, if he doesn't get claimed by somebody else, that he doesn't end up on the Cowboys practice squad. I think he will be back. Likely.
I agree. All right, this next question is from Chandler. What is your take on Jaylon Kearse having the green dot now? I don't know if you saw the story, but I believe it was Ryan Clark who said this on ESPN, that the Cowboys actually switched that role over to Jaylon Kearse this week. If you are unfamiliar with what the green dot means, it's the one player on defense that is getting the calls in from the sideline or from the booth and making the defensive calls. And the Cowboys gave that assignment to Kearse. What is your thoughts on that?
Honestly, the thing that sticks out to me the most is more that they gave it to a safety. I mean, he's a nickel linebacker, but that to me seems to be the most significant thing, as opposed to it being Kearse specifically, right? I think it's interesting. I think I wonder if it wasn't, based in that one game, if this is something that's going to happen moving forward. But I think that, I also think that's kind of an overblown thing. I think
it's a little overblown.
Yeah, right? It's a lot of just relaying the calls. They all know what the play call is, and it's not like that Kearse is the only person who can make adjustments or make sure people are lined up if they see something wrong. It's just that he's the guy that they probably felt like was going to be on the field the most consistently, right? And that's why that they gave him that, because Parsons they were using as a pass rusher, so that means that he wasn't playing every linebacker snap, and he was kind of rotating. Right. So I think it's a logistics thing. Yeah,
I think it's also to take some off the plate of Parsons, right?
Yeah, sure.
He's doing so much right now, right? So just that, what is it? Probably 10 seconds of not having to listen and think about the play call and repeating it. How much difference does it make? I don't know, but it's just something he doesn't have to worry about right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one less thing.
I think that's just about it. Next question from Travis. Should we run the Cedric Wilson pass play more? New England does it like once a game. Why shouldn't we? I don't know, Travis. I think you're right. I think I'm not saying once a game, but I think that's something the Cowboys should definitely not just throw away and say, hey, we're not using it again. I think you could do this once every couple of weeks. I really do.
I mean, are we not already? Like, how many times have we run this play in 7 weeks? Like 4, 5?
Right, I'm gonna look it up.
I know that Cedric Wilson right now is, I think, 4 for 4, right? So that means that for 4 out of the 7 weeks we've run this play, that's pretty often, I would say. Once every two games, you're running.
All right. So he's got 2 completions this season. I think they've run it a couple times where he's run the ball with it. Right?
Maybe. Okay. I feel like they've run it a lot. Like, I feel like you see.
I mean, he is averaging 28.5 yards per attempt. I don't want to say that's really good and that's unsustainable, but it's probably a little unsustainable.
That's even more unsustainable than Carson Wentz's 3rd down conversion rate the year they won the Super Bowl, which is saying something.
It'll never ever get old. So, I would use it at least once a month. Why not? Across the NFL, it's like one of the most successful plays.
They need some sort of constraint on it, right? They need some kind of an offshoot of that play to take advantage of teams that are going to be looking for it, because that's going to start happening too.
Either a backside throw, so it's having when Wilson catches it, instead of throwing it across the field or rolling to his right,
or something
a backside
like that,
throw
right?
to Ezekiel Elliott or something like that, right?
Yeah.
All right, next one from Ethan. Was last week's performance against the Vikings the best defensive performance by the Cowboys since 2018?
I think it was the most encouraging one since 2018, probably because I think we've seen the defense play better, but there's such a high variance that's going on. It's like the defense has had to maintain a level of turnovers in order to be good, and this was a game where they didn't have to turn the ball over to get off the field. And I think that itself is very, very encouraging. So in that sense, I don't think that the questioner is wrong. I think you look for, when you're trying to look for consistency with your defense, obviously you can't necessarily hope to keep up a multiple turnovers per game pace. Like, that's just not realistic. So once that pace starts to, once you start to see regression there, can the defense itself stop teams by getting them off the field by, performing in ways that are not just taking the ball away? And that's, obviously you look at the results. I think they were 1 for 13 on 3rd downs. And that's going to be something that you hope that the Cowboys can replicate in future games, that they can't necessarily turn the ball over.
The last game that I thought that was like that, where they didn't force a bunch of turnovers and they held down, I think, a pretty good offense, was the Saints back in 2018, right? And I'm sure that's what Ethan was referring to, is that game on Thursday night. So, I do, because of all the things you mentioned, they didn't get turnovers and they still forced the Vikings to only score 17 points at home. Pretty impressive. I think that's just about it for questions. A couple of people want to know about Michael Gallup coming back. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I add on to that? The other thing that was really impressive, specifically schematically, is that the Cowboys defense has particularly had hard times with those kind of offenses.
Yes.
So it was a very bad style match for the Cowboys defense. And for them to do what they did versus that style of offense is very encouraging. So that's just all I wanted to add it in.
Yeah. A couple of people just want to know, do you play Michael Gallup this week, or do you give him one more week to rest up?
This is why I'm not a trainer, man. Obviously, I think you've gone pretty far, with what you've got at this point. I think you may want to consider playing Gallup, though. Gallup, here's the difference to me. The Broncos have lost, some of their pass rushers. That obviously makes you feel that way.
And some of their corners. They've
lost
lost
some of their.
Bryce Callahan, their slot corner, is on IR, got put on there this week. They traded away Kerry Vincent yesterday to the Eagles. Kyle Fuller has actually been benched for them. So like they've lost like 3 decent corners in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and actually, I was gonna make the now that I didn't know that Bryce Callahan got hurt.
Yep, he got hurt
So
late in the game against Washington. Yep.
well, okay, then that changes my answer a little bit because I was gonna say it feels like you may need with this kind of this trio of corners, you may need to put out Gallup out there to make sure that you're kind of maintaining a level of
Sure.
air superiority that can help ensure the game. Without Callahan, maybe it is best to just give them another week and just kind of. I mean, look, you're winning games without your quarterback at this point. Take advantage of it. Get all these guys healthy and ready to go and ready for the last season push. The Cowboys are just in an incredibly great situation right now with their schedule, and they just need to take advantage of it.
One of the reasons why I think I would play Gallup this week is you are at home on a good surface. I think that'll help. I think it would be nice not to have to play Amari as many snaps as he's playing. It's pretty clear Amari is really beat up. So we really like Wilson, but I don't know if I like Wilson one-on-one with Patrick Surtain. I'd rather have that be a Michael Gallup matchup.
And maybe that's what you do, as opposed to it being Gallup giving an extra week. Maybe you sit Cooper down because, look, I mean, even beyond Cedric Wilson, Noah Brown has had a pretty decent year as well. So maybe you start Gallup. You start getting him some reps. I mean, obviously, it will be a heavy CD Lamb game, and then you kind of mix in Gallup a little bit, and then Cedric and Noah Brown can take a percentage of those snaps. That suddenly becomes a very big mismatch depending on where they're going with those corners. But I do think again that this is going to be a game where they're going to run the football a lot. I feel,
I think so as well.
So I think you could probably afford to sit one of those wide receivers if you need to for health reasons.
I just want to say this about Noah Brown. He's like the most unlucky receiver in football right now because he's got 7 receptions on the season. He has 4 catches this year of 20 or more yards that have got called back due to a penalty, an offensive holding, or an illegal formation. So shout out to Noah Brown. I feel bad for you. You're a much better player than what your stats indicate. That's all.
Cedric's getting all the love right now because
I know it's unfortunate because the two are not that different from each other, right?
Noah Brown's been playing pretty good football too. Yeah.
Good luck telling Amari to sit though. As we saw on Sunday, he's rubbing his hamstring with one of the balls that they have, one of those massage balls, and then he goes out and catches the game-winning touchdown. So, oh well.
Tennis balls on the hamstring, man. They're undefeated. It really.
You remember good. The meme with the Giants trainer who has been with the team since like 1930, whatever? That's like the same treatment they've been using back then, right? The Amari just rolls it out, goes back on the field, makes a play. All right, so that is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Tomorrow we'll have a crossover show for you. Stay tuned for that. Check out Locked On Broncos with Cody. You guys will really enjoy that show. He's been in a dark place the last couple of weeks. So if you want to see a depressed fan base, go check them out. We'll be back on Friday for our preview. So make sure you're tuning in. Download wherever you get your podcast. Check us out on YouTube. He's Landon. I'm Marcus. We'll see you guys next time.